Chapter 25. Time, 1/2 hour after midnight. Machiko and Noguchi looked around at the hunters gathered impatiently behind the car. They looked startling in the dim moonlight, like primitive gods sprung up from ashes of past bonfires, wild and slavering for revenge. The night smelled of blood and horror, and her heart beat with adrenaline, and with purpose. Bakub? She gestured in a questioning, challenging method, a kind of stirring motion meant to bring up a fellow's blood, charge him with kinship and all the finer points of bonded honour. "We hunger for it," proclaimed the leader of the predators, his snarling voice muffled through his mask. He pounded his hand blaster on his armour. A stream of words came out that Machiko did not quite recognise. "Destruction to the outrage and the perpetrators of this abomination," Attila interpreted. "My sentiments exactly," returned Machiko. She thumbed a switch on the car's control panel. The motor throbbed to life. Her senses were so keen now, she instantly smelled the engine discharge. "All right," she said. "All we have to do now is wait for the diversion." They waited. This waiting seemed to be a bit of a strain upon the predators. They had ceased their warming manoeuvres now and stood still against the night, ready for the hunt. But Machiko could sense their impatience, their bloodlust. They would as soon charge the settlement now, diversion or no diversion, but their patience and obedience to their new leader held them in check. The same patience of lions, hanging back in the bushes, waiting for the proper time to lunge and give chase to a herd of antelope. Problem was, this time the herd of antelope was heavily armed. "What time is it?" 2.5 minutes late, answered Attila. "What the hell is taking them?" "There's no way to tell. They're all out. I hope doing their jobs." Another moment passed. "Damn it," said Machiko. "This is what we get for using a damned body as a radio. There's no way to carry it around with you." "A relay system could have been concocted, but it would have been difficult to regulate. No, Machiko, have confidence. You have chosen your allies well. They are good soldiers." Machiko looked yearningly towards the settlement. Its taller buildings were in the centre, and they gleamed in the moonlight, the smaller outlying buildings huddled around them like children gathered around parents. The genetic factory was one of the farther buildings to the northwest, but it was to the west that the attack party was skulking. This was the portion of the fence that Daniels claimed could most easily be deactivated. Then, as though in answer to her mental commands, the diversion began. The bright flare of an incredibly incandescent explosion leaped up from the far side of the settlement, like a knife into the sky. Moments later, another separate explosion of radiance, slightly more amber and jagged, shot up. A rocket flare without the rocket. "Yes," Machiko called out. "Advance!" raising her hand at the same time, the agreed-upon semaphore. They moved out. "Oh, ye of little faith," said Attila. As though in agreement, the thunderous sound of the initial explosion finally reached them. The second echoed soon after, even louder. "Ah," said Machiko, "that should get their attention. That should bring their forces to that side. Meanwhile, we go in through the side closer to the factory." There were 2 predators lying on top of the roof riding shotgun, and the added weight slowed the vehicle down somewhat. However, as fast as the predators were, they still clearly struggled to keep up. They did not complain. The fighting frenzy was upon them, and they had plenty of strength and energy to draw upon. Less than a kilometre separated the fence and the factory. When they reached the perimeter, Machiko noticed a shimmer. Her heart leaped into her throat. What? Were the force fences still up? What had happened to Sanchez? God damn it! However, as they got closer, she could see that a section of the fence was down, and 2 figures were gesturing at them. Sanchez and Daniels, waving guns. Come on, Daniels yelled. "There's a damn good chance, diversion or no diversion, they've spotted you on sensors." "I thought you took care of that," said Machiko. "I did, you just never know." The 2 opened the back door and hopped into the back seat while the car was still moving. "Hey, I thought you 2 were going to stay out of this part. I thought that was the agreement." "Hell with it," said Sanchez. "You go, we go." "Yeah," said Daniels. "Anyway, I want to see what they've got in there before you and your weird aliens blow it all up." Machiko had about one moment of consternation and concern, which instantly changed to appreciation and a kind of hard, flinty, steely love. A comradely love born of brethren in arms. "Okay, it's your butts. Off we go." "The Alienmobile," said Daniels. Sanchez said nothing. He just got his gun out as Machiko hauled ass toward the factory. "So there you are," said Daniels, leaning his brawny visage over the seat and regarding Attila's head, snugly fitted between two boxes so that it wouldn't roll around. "I must say, it's been damn strange working with that headless body of yours, buddy." "You think it's been strange for you? You're not the one who's counting on Machiko Noguchi for transportation. I am not the dependent sort." "You've been a godsend, I'll tell you that. What else can this android body of yours do?" "That's something that I am finding constantly surprising," answered the android head. "Well, for the record, in contrast to these hunting behemoths I find myself surrounded by, you're Mr. Normal." Daniels looked around. "Hey, where the hell they go?" "They've put their invisibility devices on. If you look at them peripherally, you'll notice a blurring of their form as the light bends around them." "Geez, yeah, you're right. These are some high-tech whizzes for such barbarian brains." "Who knows where they got it," said Machiko, shrugging. "Maybe they stole it. Maybe they have scientists." "Heads up," said Ned Sanchez. "Factory dead ahead. And it looks like, for all our efforts, they still have a welcoming party." Livermore Evanston was expecting something like this. Nonetheless, when it came more spectacularly than he'd expected, and from inside the compound. His instruments told him that. He'd anticipated an attack sometime this evening, and so, after taking a long nap, enjoying a steam bath and a first-rate therapeutic massage, he'd camped out here, in his state-of-the-art war room. Even though Bleor was situated in the middle of nowhere, he'd always been aware of its military future, and so one of the first things he constructed, in the basement of his central fortress, was a personal bunker, linked to the topside world by the most sophisticated sensor and communication system possible. Here he was safe and snug from any kind of attack, shielded behind firm layers of permacrete and steel. At his fingertips was a wealth of weapons. Still, for all its shimmering completeness, Livermore Evanston hadn't expected to be using it this soon. Nervously, he snacked on his own special blend of spiced salted nuts for the energy and stamina he felt he was going to need, even though he'd packed in a full dinner that night, supplemented by vitamins and tonics, minus his usual doses of alcohol. Cigar fumes hung about him now as he stared out his screen, watching as the light of the explosions reached for the nighttime sky. "Damn," he said. "They're breaking into the south perimeter." "We're dispatching forces to deal with it, sir," said Zorski, via radio. "Yes, of course, but watch out," said Evanston after the computer analysis floated up on the screen. "Those blasts came from within the fence." "Saboteurs?" "Got to be. Damn." "Look," Evanston said, "there's no reason to leave the principal thing we're worried about unguarded. Just put out an exploratory force to see if there's really anything coming in. It can always be reinforced if necessary." "Evanston, we've got people out here, civilians. Guests. Give them guns. Tell them it's part of the show we're experimenting with. And just might get out of hand. If they're not security, just have them shoot at anything that looks like a monster or Machiko Noguchi from the window." "Yes, sir," said Zorski. "But don't you think you're being a little too glib?" "I wouldn't be glib, Zorski, if I didn't think this was something we could deal with." "That's a fine thing to say when you're tucked in safe and tight where you are." "Ah, do I detect a hint of insubordination? May I remind you, Zorski, that you're one of the architects of this great plan, and every bit as enmeshed as I. Frankly, I wish I'd enmeshed down there with you right now. Zorski, Zorski." He might have been saying, "Tusk, tusk." Rewards demand risks. This has never been a sure or safe enterprise, and yet its rewards will be astronomical. Zorski sighed. "Right, no time to bicker. Time to fight. Time to solve problems. I'll be here, the voice of experience, monitoring, controlling the vital elements that need controlling. And believe you me, Zorski, if worst comes to worst, I'll be out there with a blaster pack strapped to my back. Yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. Communication ceased. Evanston turned back to his equipment, glittering and shining competently. He just wished he felt as confident as he sounded. Anyway, there were far more effective measures that could be taken than strapping a weapon on himself. The thought made him smile. He almost hoped it would come to those measures. The results could solve a great deal of testing. Humming an aria to himself, his hands began to tap emphatically across controls.